Israel says it has struck Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon after more than 150 missiles, rockets and drones were launched towards Israeli territory overnight. The militant group Hezbollah said the attack was in response to an earlier wave of Israeli airstrikes on southern Lebanon. Meanwhile, in Gaza City, an Israeli airstrike has killed 7 people in a school sheltering displaced families. That's according to the Hamas-controlled Health Ministry. The Israeli military said it had targeted militants operating from the compound at the school. A strike at another school hours earlier killed 22 people. Marina Moron is a military analyst at King's College London, and she joins us now for some analysis. Marina, Israel says it is trying to push Hezbollah from its northern border. What is your assessment of the current situation? Is that successful?
Good evening, Gerhard. Well, so far it's very difficult to tell because Israel just announced this new phase of war with the so-called center of gravity being now in the north, namely the southern Lebanon. Therefore, it remains to be seen what Israel actually does, as the fighting or the intensity of fighting in Gaza seems to have reduced and turned into a war of attrition. Israel redeployed forces to the northern border, and there is a probability that the Israeli government will decide to launch a ground operation to push Hezbollah away from the border and to enable the Israeli settlers to return to that area. So there is a possibility that Israel will try to create a buffer zone during this so-called new phase.
Now, Israel's Defense Minister Gallant said that Israel will do whatever it takes to achieve the goal of returning the citizens to the north of the country. Does that include a possible land invasion of southern Lebanon?
Well, it depends on how successful the current strategy works in terms of weakening Hezbollah. And we have seen the recent the pager attack in which Israel attempted to disorganize, deliver a psychological blow to the organization. And I wouldn't exclude the possibility of launching a ground operation. However, we have to take into account that Hezbollah has some 150 rockets and missiles, among them precision-guided missiles, meaning that we always have to consider what could be a potential response by Hezbollah. Nasrallah vowed to respond to the pager attack, which we are still awaiting. So this response hasn't taken place yet. It's not the strikes that we have seen. And also it depends on what the US will do, because in case of that ground operation, Hezbollah and maybe other regional actors such as Iran, such as the Houthis, so the so-called axis of resistance might activate their attacks on Israel. Therefore, it has to be weighed very carefully what could be the downsides, because the entire territory of Israel within the range of Hezbollah's rockets, and does Israel have enough air defenses in order to defend its military objects as well as its populated areas? And that will be largely contingent on the US support.
Now, Hezbollah's deputy chief announced a new phase of battle with Israel. What does that mean?
Well, for now, we have seen, as I said, that Hezbollah resumed its cross-border strikes, striking deeper into Israel, meaning that Hezbollah is trying to show to the Israeli government that it has the capability on the one hand, and it also knows some critical locations that it can strike within Israel. However, I don't think that this is actually marking that phase, and there is a possibility, as I said, that Hezbollah being in this state right now after the pager attack might be reinforced by other non-state actors who have similar goals in the region in order to damage Israel and possibly to deter it from possibly launching this ground operation. That being said, it remains to be seen whether this operation will take place. We've seen that both sides were on the brink of an all-out war, and then one side will pull out. Whether this will be the case this time, time will tell.
Marina Miron there, the military analyst at King's College London. Thank you very much, Marina.
Thank you for having me.